Everywhere that Jesus went, he was healing the sick, the lame, the blind, and people that were demon-possessed. So people had brought a man to Jesus that was demon-possessed, and he was both deaf and he was blind. Jesus healed the man, and he could hear and he could see. Some of the people were excited to see this man healed. Other people shouted, "Could this be the one the prophet spoke of? Could this be the son of David?" But some of the people were frustrated with Jesus, and they shouted insults at him. "Why, he's working with Satan. Give us a sign to show your power. He is demon-possessed, and he's out of his mind." Mark 3:23 says, "So Jesus called them over to him, and he began to speak to them in parables." "How can Satan cast out Satan?" Jesus said. Now, wait a minute. Is Satan fighting against himself? Why would these people who are part of Satan's kingdom continuously complain about Jesus? Their complaining means they're spending their time fighting Jesus' kingdom instead of building Satan's kingdom. Satan had already failed to recruit Jesus as a follower of his kingdom during his temptation in the wilderness. In verse 24, Jesus goes on to say that if a kingdom is divided against itself, that kingdom cannot stand. Satan has a group of demons that joined his rebellion against God. Now, Satan and those demons were actually kicked out of heaven, and they're trying to build a kingdom here on earth. Jesus describes Satan as a liar and a murderer. In John 8, Jesus said when Satan lies, he speaks his native language. He's a liar and the father of lies. Satan and his demons sometimes actually visit people, but most of the time they work through other people right here on the earth. These are people Satan has recruited to be members of his kingdom. Jesus observes some basic problems with Satan's kingdom. As he's talking to this group of people, he shares three weaknesses in Satan's tactic. The first tactic Jesus points out that Satan is fighting against his own people. Jesus has observed Satan fighting against the very same people that he's recruited into his kingdom. Jesus tells the crowd there's no way Satan's kingdom is going to survive this kind of leadership. Verse 25 says, "And if a house is divided against itself, that house will not be able to stand." In the first tactical error, Jesus said that the kingdom was divided. Now Jesus tells us that the house is divided. Satan's people are fighting against and even killing each other. Some of the people shouted approval while others shouted insults. They couldn't agree on whether this was a good thing or it was a bad thing. Jesus' second observation is that Satan's people were divided against each other. There was no agreement with Satan's people as to the problem or the solution. Satan offered no solution. Satan's plan is not working. Verse 26, "And if Satan has risen up against himself and is divided, he cannot stand, but is coming to an end." Jesus says that the third problem with Satan's kingdom is that he's fighting against his own plan. The Old Testament prophets in the book of Revelation tell us that Satan has a big plan for his kingdom. Satan's eventually going to develop a 3-member leadership team just like God the Father, Jesus Christ, and the Holy Spirit. They will utterly fail in their plan. Satan has it all written down. The problem, Jesus observed, is that Satan keeps changing the plan. He's the coach that comes up with new plays in the middle of the game. And when he does experience a loss, Satan attacks his own people, screaming, cursing, fighting everywhere. Jesus said everyone in his kingdom would find a full life. Jesus declares that peace reigns throughout his kingdom. Satan's plan is not working. Why should I worry about Satan? Jesus said he is a disorganized leader. His tactics are evident in our culture today. We get information on our phones, televisions, newspapers, and even in our educational system. Our world is full of people complaining, griping, jealous, and envious. The result is stealing, fighting, and finally even killing. Jesus reminds us in this story that Satan has 3 tactical problems. Number 1, Satan is fighting against his own people. Number 2, Satan's people are fighting against each other. And number 3, Satan is fighting against his own plan. Verse 27 says, "But no one can enter a strong man's house and plunder his goods unless he first binds the strong man. Then indeed he can plunder his house." If I don't need to worry about Satan, how am I going to bind him? 1 Peter 5:8. Be alert and of a sober mind. Your enemy, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion looking for someone to devour. Resist him, standing firm in the faith. I resist Satan by developing a better relationship with Jesus, not by engaging Satan in a battle. Revelation 12:10. Then I heard a loud voice in heaven say, Now have come the salvation and the power and the kingdom of our God, and the authority of his Messiah. For the accuser of our brothers and sisters, who accuses them before our God day and night, has been hurled down. Colossians 1:15. The Son is the image of the invisible God, the firstborn over all creation. For in him all things were created, things in heaven and on the earth, visible and invisible, whether thrones, powers, rulers, or authorities. All things have been created through him and for him. He is before all things, and in him all things hold together. Jesus tells me that Satan is a major loser. Jesus also reminds me that he created and controls Satan. Just like Jesus did, I can survive any attacks from Satan or his followers. I need to be aware and alert that Satan is working in our culture. Jesus says that he is a poor leader in a kingdom that is failing. Jesus ends with the assurance that I can plunder Satan's house. I believe Jesus tells me that we have the authority to rescue people that are under Satan's control.